Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Um, as you heard last week, I am going on vacation, which means that we're not probably going to have a show for the next week and this week. Um, as a result, a blessing in disguise happened, and I snipped it out, and now we're going to put that up on the show. So listen to Jeff and Ben hold Josh at hostage for roughly 1 hour while we talk about politics for an hour. Yeah, an hour. So, thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Do you want some breaking unfortunate news from America?
Sure.
Texas is at it again.
Oh boy, what happened?
8 dead and 7 injured in a shooter in a mall in Texas.
Oh boy.
It happened literally today at 3 o'clock.
I
can hear some old person go, liberal. Liberal.
Oh no. 8 victims ranging from 5 to 61.
Oh my god.
Why do I...
Another child has been killed. Jesus Christ.
Do we have any idea of what the shooter was?
I'm reading the article right now.
And they usually say if it's white. Another white man committed a genocide. I don't know, man. The United States has a lot of fucking problems right now. And I think the solution is a lot simpler than most people fucking think it is. Because it's just, I don't want to say it's mental health issues, but it's partially mental health issues.
I saw a story about a guy that literally drove 13 hours to his brother's house, then pulled a gun on him, killed him, shot his wife, and then tried to burn his house down and then had a shootout with police. If that's not mental health, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
He had 23 pistol magazines and 150 shotgun shells. He was ready to hold out and then fight the police for a long time. But thankfully, he was an idiot, and he walked out in the open and got himself shot in the head.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know, man. I think I want to say that my guess is mental health issues, but at the same time, I don't know. But I just want to think it's mental health issues, so it could be something completely different. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does not say anything about the shooter yet.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know this. It's probably a lot simpler than people think it is.
Man, there's a lot. The problem is it's a really loaded problem because, like, America is specifically built on the fact that like the people are supposed to be able to defend themselves from a tyrannical government because that's the whole reason we were created in the first place. And the problem is that when you fight a government, you need weapons
Yes.
in the long run. And the other problem is that we've been a large state of deterrence through equal arms. So like when the point has always been if you go to rob a house, you don't know if that house is armed or not. And the point is that if everybody's armed, nobody gets attacked for being by another armed person. Like that's like the thing. It's like you never know when there's another person with a gun. And that's what they've always been, right? But the problem is that you can't keep guns out of the hands of mentally ill people unless you have the proper guidelines to do that. And of course, they probably didn't think that there was going to be a mentally ill person shooting up a mall with a musket back then. That's the problem.
Well,
that wasn't a thing for them back then.
Well, mental illness was like you got to keep in mind that the Second Amendment wasn't the first draft of the Second Amendment.
Probably not. I'm too illiterate for that to know how it was drafted and whatnot. But basically, the thing is that they couldn't future-proof it against the point of the advancement of weaponry that we have and the degradation of mental health in our society or the understanding of mental health on such a wide scale, because the amount of people that they had back then and the amount of people that we have now is so vastly different, and people are incredible ranges, and there's no way that they could have predicted that like there would be people with such debilitating diseases being able to reproduce and have children, right? So and also like as you get older, some of these things come out stronger. So you could have a problem, and because you died before you ever hit 60, it would never have been known to be a problem. But now that you live into your 80s, suddenly you have a problem when you hit 60.
Well,
or you have a problem when you hit 50, when the average lifespan was 40.
Well, I also would say that, like, I would think that there's also another issue, too, that we also forget is that mental illness is relatively a new issue as well.
Yeah, we've always we've had a large misunderstanding of what mental illness is.
Yeah.
Like the way, I mean, just literally just 100 years ago, the way we were treated, mental illnesses was like leeches and like drilling holes in people's heads. And then just 50 years ago, we would use electrotherapy on your fucking brain.
Yeah.
Probably even less than that. Oh wait, no, that's about right. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is like we used to lock up people before they were even a problem.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that that's okay. I don't think that that's okay.
I think there are some situations where forceful intervention is a necessity.
But
again, that's by a case basis that needs to be properly vetted and controlled under medical guidance.
Yeah, and that is something that can be very dangerously manipulated, controlled, be very poorly used.
Again, like I said, that is a problem that is a more nuanced thing that needs to be fixed. And, obviously can't just be like, oh, you need to, have a doctor go with the police or, scan inmates or something to be, institutionalized or whatnot. Like that is not a feasible solution.
Yeah. And I agree with that. The thing I'm saying is like, I think that like at the same time we have, I think the solution is a lot more like, innocent and stuff like that. Like I don't really know what the solution is. Part of me thinks the best solution is something more nuanced, where it's like, hey, maybe we need intervention and stuff like that. Because like, for example, school shootings and stuff like that.
I think proper security could absolutely eliminate school shootings. Okay, that's the first part. The second part, that's from an outside source. From an interior source, schools need better accountability for the failures that happen in the school that allow children to become school shooters. School shooters from the outside coming in, that literally can be fixed with, I think, depending on the school size, with literally 2 people. 2 people per school can change everything in that. Because a single person at the right place at the right time that is armed and trained properly can defuse a school shooter from an outside perspective very easily. And the fact is that the school shooter that shot up the Christian school went somewhere else first, but they had security and left to the one that had no security. So just having the security just as a presence is huge for a deterrence.
I wasn't really going to bring that one up, but because of I went on a rant about that one, and that one hits a little close to home, if I'm honest. But but like the thing is, I was going to say is like, I agree with you. You're 100% correct. Like I think, Josh, have you been bullied in school?
When I was younger, and that kind of just slowly passed over with time.
Yeah, I think everyone here kind of has gone through that and stuff like that in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I have suffered chronic and consistent bullying for 90% of my school life. There was never a day that went by there where I was not bullied relentlessly.
Yeah, and I think that part of the problem is like I think it's different here in Canada than it is in the States.
There's no repercussions for it.
No, there's
in the States. It is.
Yeah, in this
nobody gives a shit in the States. You go to a teacher, they say come to adult, talk to a teacher. Nothing changes. If anything, it gets worse. They don't do anything. That's what I'm saying. Like the accountability needs to be held upon the staff for the failures that they have of the students. The reason we have school shooters is because the staff fails, and it also is because they don't have the tools to either. Like you've seen videos after videos of teachers that get assaulted and beat down by children that are insubordinate and fucking just absolutely disgusting.
Just don't care.
Over the smallest things. Like the teacher that almost got killed over a switch. I saw a teacher get pepper sprayed by a fucking 18-year-old student in a college because he took her phone because she was cheating.
Okay. I'm gonna say this, and I'm just gonna try and be as nice, and you let me know if I'm right or wrong. I think that your schools need to bring back gun class. I think that you guys need a class where every single student is taught how to properly use a rifle. I also think that your schools also need to introduce mandatory fitness classes.
We do have mandatory fitness, but it's very lax, unfortunately.
And I think that there also needs to be a thing where, in order to get your high school diploma or your GED, you need to go to summer camp for about 2 months. Where basically point blank, it's a mandatory requirement. You basically have to learn how to live a healthy life.
So there's actually I think there's probably 3 problems. The first problem is the gun thing. The gun thing is compounded with another problem. It is very expensive to have multiple actual guns, non-firing guns, even just guns without firing pins or guns without certain pieces that makes it so that you can't fire, and then learning to understand those guns, far too expensive that any school could ever afford. Most schools can't even afford modern PCs. They're using Dells from the fucking 2005.
That is my second, and then I would also say that I think that you guys also need school choice.
But military schools do have gun training classes. So private military schools do.
Yeah.
Public military schools don't, but private ones do because they're more well funded. What was the second thing? Also the camp thing. Again, because of the funding in the schools, also parents can't even afford to even pay into summer camps. So that is again off the board. And there was a second one that you said.
I think.
Oh, the fitness thing. Again, the schools aren't given enough authority to force interaction with anything.
Yeah, and I think that the problem with it's really hard to discuss stuff like this because we're talking about a tragedy that happens and stuff like that. And the reason why this stuff happens is because you get somebody who's angry and they take it out on the world, and they're ultimately a coward. They're ultimately, and I mean this, we should just call them bitch tits. What the fuck ever. Piece of shit. Motherfucker. And it's something where I feel as things get worse and worse and worse, you're going to see more and more and more. And I think that the United States is kind of on the bleeding edge of that, unfortunately. And you can blame COVID-19. I think it did a number on you guys in a lot of ways.
The thing is COVID exacerbated and then revealed a lot of flaws and problems that we have in our infrastructure. And the thing is that we want to stuff our heads in the sand so badly afterwards anyway. And our government is really slow and drags its feet when it does anything to get anything done. So that's a mix of just like we have too many old people stuck in their ways, and the government is ineffective because of corruption and bloat.
Well, and I also feel like that's the other problem is like you also have like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. What is the medium age of most of your politicians?
Over 64, I believe.
Okay, and that's a massive problem. That should not.
Yeah, because they don't represent the masses anymore.
No, they don't. And what they do is they represent themselves. And they represent their constituents who are basically old people. And the ones that do represent yourself, and I'm pretty sure Josh is like, fuck this, I'm out. I gotta go poo. Yeah. Good for you.
It is 58 for the House. 50. Yeah, it's 58 for Congress, 58 for the House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's about 58, except Congress, it's 63.
And like here's the thing is like I think that like I don't. It's a lot more complicated of a problem because it's very obvious that the representation that you guys are having isn't really there anymore. Like, okay, for example, look at AOC. AOC doesn't really represent her district worth shit, but she represents Twitter.
The problem is I feel like, okay, so there's twofold problems. I think she came in, honestly, trying to represent for the millennials, right? Because I think she's a millennial, right?
Yeah.
So I think she genuinely came in trying to do that. But the problem is when you hit politics, you either play the game or you don't get to exist. And I think she's been forced into playing the game. And playing the game will corrupt you. There's nothing that you can do about it. You will be corrupted because that's the way you play the game. Corruption is the game. Mm-hmm. And there is no other solution besides ripping it all out and fixing it. And that is just something that takes time and enough brave souls to do it. And unfortunately, one brave soul isn't enough. So even if she came in trying to be the brave soul, there's far too many entrenched old money politicians that will bully you into playing the game. And she's been bullied into playing the game. Yeah. And the other problem is she's been swallowed whole by the ideology war.
Yeah.
And in a desperate attempt to rally the Gen Xers and the Gen Zers, she plays the Twitter war.
Yeah. And that's
because that's the only way their brains work.
Yeah, and that's I don't want to be mean, but like
it's sad. It is terribly sad.
Yeah, like I don't want to talk about like who I support and stuff like that because like right now we're having the same issue in Alberta where you have one major political party and you can go on any social media website and every single social media website, like if you go on the r/Alberta subreddit, they will literally sit there and they will be like, everything Rachel Notley does is perfect, and everything Daniel Smith does is literally the devil. And it's like, okay, you end up looking at this stuff and you're like, Rachel Notley literally kicked out a journalist because he was asking questions.
Yeah, it's like
and no, it gets better. It gets better. And then they'll sit there and they'll go, well, that journalist is not a real journalist. It's like, I don't give a shit if that journalist is not a real journalist. He was asking questions. The least you can do is answer. And B, you're the first person to you're the first person to whenever Daniel Smith will sit there and say, look, I don't think that we should do X. X is kind of stupid. You're the first person to start bitching or complaining.
And like,
And-
what about fucking like in Chicago with Lawrence Lightfoot? The way she fucking just straight up lies, and like the journalist that she got the journalist's fucking credentials stripped of him,
Yeah.
even though he was a legitimate journalist and doing all that stuff. She got his shit stripped, and the fact that like he wasn't allowed to ever do anything in Chicago again
the truth
until
the
she
tr-
left.
the
It's
truth-
ridiculous.
Well, the truth is like a lot of these politicians and stuff like that, and I don't mean to single out a political party and political side, but a lot of these political parties inside, they reflect their political basis. And unfortunately for people like me who, I support gay rights, I support LGBT rights. I am greatly offended by a group of people who continually run around and think that they're better than people based on their ideology and who they support. I don't really want to continue like bashing them, but like the truth is like the fact is like I'm voting conservative this election.
And you know what's sad? You're probably completely rejected by them, even though you are quintessentially an ally. It's because you don't fully agree and drink the Kool-Aid with them on
No.
every single possible policy. Like if I bet if like, how do you feel about like the drag shows and all that other shit in like schools and crap? You probably don't like that, right?
Well, no, because here's the thing. I think that drag shows are great. I personally wouldn't go to one. That's not my thing. I don't really want to go to one.
If an
But-
adult wants to
but
go
if,
to a
like,
drag show,
but-
that is perfectly fine. But the problem
Yes.
is that it is a sexual thing.
But like the thing is like, I can say this as an uncle. My niece is a raging Catholic. Okay, if I found out my niece was being shown was taken to a library and then read a book by drag queen, there would be, I don't want to say there would be words, because there would be there would be phrases and things I would say that are not kosher for the internet. Because you do not show my fucking niece that stuff. And it probably wouldn't just be me saying those things. My nephew, my sister, my nephew, who I won't mention his name, he's the same way. But my sister made a decision, and she looked at some of the curriculum, and she goes, "Nope, he's not taking sex classes on sex." Okay, that's fine. But like one of the things I mentioned to him was like I took him to go see the Mario movie. It was just me and him. We were having a good time. One of the things I mentioned to him is like, hey, if you see something that you don't like, tell me and we'll walk away. And I felt the need to say that because it's like I live in Edmonton. Edmonton's a place of scum and villainy. It's like Tatooine now. And it's like I don't want to say like I don't want to be like mean or anything like that, but at the same time, like when I was growing up, there was a lot of kids who were fucked up, and you could tell they were kind of fucked up, and they were beaten up because their parents went through a divorce. They were emotionally manipulated. There was a lot of drugs and stuff like that. It was very easy to tell. And like now it feels like kind of like we kind of approached full circle where now we're kind of seeing like what fucked up actually means. And like, to be blunt, I don't support Drag Queen Story Hour, and I don't support all ages drag shows. And it feels like to me like they're kind of passing on that trauma of they're kind of passing on a trauma that doesn't exist. And like, I get it. Like, daddy didn't love you. But at the same time, it's like, it's not, your dad's job is not to, if your dad doesn't love you, that's not little Timmy's fault. And little Timmy doesn't need to know what a man's dick looks like. Nor does he need to see a man wearing tons of makeup and basically Jim Sterling. like stuff like that. And like
I'm of the volition like of always like when you're an adult, whatever the legal age of adulthood is, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. And like the other thing I'll say about this
And
is
I just think that kind of stuff being portrayed to children is not a good look.
like
And
here's
then
the
saying
thing.
that that's a good thing is also not a good look.
And saying what? That drag queen story hour is a good thing?
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't think it's. I personally do not think that that is the right call.
Let me put it like this. I think that I have a friend who would. I had a former friend. I should say former because she's fucking hates my guts now and calls me a Nazi and a lot of words. And the reason I think she got really offended when I showed her my not my tax return, my RSP, which is another reason why a lot of my liberal friends don't like me. But one of the big things I think is like I looked at like one of the big things that we always used to argue about was like stuff like where my sisters used to play sports and I played football growing up and stuff like that. And one of the big things that they kind of would always complain about is they would always say, I don't understand what's the big deal between a man and a woman fighting. And I would say, okay, well, this is not F1. And I would show them 3 videos. And the videos was Zach Cassian beating the shit out of some male hockey player, UFC fight, and then one of the trans UFC fighters fighting a woman. And I would say, do you support this? And they would always respond with yes. And I think that that's, like, at the end of the day, I think that there needs to be a little bit more responsibility. And I think that, like, the trans right issues is, again, another issue, like gun control. It's pretty difficult in order to make a judgment call. Because let's take Blair White, for example. Blair White is an actual trans person. She actually gives a shit about people. She's a conservative, so there you have one thing. And she takes stands in areas that she should be. She takes stands in a really interesting way. Blair White should be allowed to use the women's restroom.
She is, yeah, but she's completely post-op and female presenting. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell unless you literally investigate it. But,
And
like, the fact that, like, there's that one guy that, like, freaked the fuck out about going to an all-women's gym, it looks like a dude. You still look like a guy. Like, you don't have anything to even look like a female except the fact that you have long hair. That's, like, completely different.
But I think that we need to take. I think that's a case by case basis.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think that, like, oh, we lost somebody.
Josh is left, and I think rightfully so.
Oh, he went to the AFK channel because he hasn't said anything in a while.
He's probably.
He's out. He's totally zoned out of this.
Yeah,
But I think that investigating genitalia is not the way to go.
No, and I like that's something where it's like there are some of my friends. I have a couple of friends who. There's one I know. This is revealing conversation that I've had with people in real life. This is kind of I hopefully they don't really have an issue with me mentioning this. But like I have one friend, and the concern right now is like, did he get groomed into this shit?
Yeah, that is another thing that like the documentary of that one fucking kid has been doing it since like birth, and they're so fucked up now.
Yeah, and the thing is like, I don't want to be mean to the LGBTQA plus community, but I just can't support. I can't in a realistic term continually going. I support LGBT rights, and it's like fuck it. I can't.
I can support rights that make sense. There's a point where like it doesn't make sense anymore, and I feel like where like Florida is taking it to the extreme with some of their like restrictions and stuff. But honestly, letting a child that has not had their brain fully develop undergo hormone blockers and transitioning before 18 is abuse, in my opinion.
I think Florida is taking it to the natural ending.
And I think that's where it's going to end up. It's going to end up where you have to be an adult because we don't have the science yet for this. We just don't. And they say that we do, but we don't.
Well, like, here's the thing. Is like I look at Europe. And Europe has completely... This was something around 2012 that was coming up and started on Tumblr, of all places. And then,
of course.
Yeah, because that's where all the great ideas came from back in the day, Tumblr. You know, the only way it could get any better is if it came from 4chan. But that would be like, hey, let's lock up all the fucking brownies and throw them into concentration camps. Yes, people, you can use that as a fucking quote and then get me fired from my jobs. That would be wonderful.
Just take it out of context. It's all good.
Yeah, just take it out of context.
I went to go poop and I come back to this.
We're ranting about Florida and their laws about trans children.
Oh yeah, that thing, fucking crazed.
And like,
if you have the ability to, I feel like moving would be the best option at this point. Because holy shit,
I'm worried about.
I honestly don't see anything particularly wrong. I see what I see wrong with it is involving CPS as take children. I think the only thing you need to do is block the doctors from being able to perform the operations and give drugs. Giving drugs to block hormones before puberty is just wrong.
Well, no, and like here's the other thing too, and this is something that people don't really fucking take into account. All of these drugs are prescribed off-label. And the best part about this is that I don't... and I'm sorry, Josh. I don't know how... I'm sorry. Like, this is something I'm really passionate about. A lot of these drugs are prescribed off-label. And these are the same people who sit there and will defend these drugs through and through. The same drugs that we use to castrate children, okay, are the same fucking drugs that we use to castrate pedophiles. Are the same drugs that we use in order to fucking block hormones, are the same ones that we use to fight chemo and fight cancer. The same drugs that we use to do all of these things, they're all prescribed off-label because they fucking happened to fucking be testing something and go, oh, your testosterone receptors, they're not working anymore. And the same people who sit there and defend this usage of these drugs through and through, these drugs were never developed in order for this stuff. They were developed to fight cancer. They were developed in order to castrate pedophiles. They were developed in order to do X. They were developed in order to do Y. They were never developed in order to block hormones. They were never developed for that stuff. And anybody who tells you that is a fucking idiot. Okay?
And this is something that you never hear them talk about
This is something you never hear them talk about because why the fuck would they mention it? It's an inconvenient truth. But these are the same fucking people who sat there and lied through their fucking teeth about ivermectin. And they were sitting there saying, this is prescribed off-label. It's not an actual drug. And it's like, dude, if you look at the fucking studies, ivermectin was never the main fucking thing to use to fight COVID. It was never the fucking main treatment thing. It was never the fucking thing that did 90% of the work. You know what did? And I can tell you these people are fucking retarded. And I can say this with a straight fucking face on my fucking face, is because they'll sit there and rant about it to the fucking end, and they will refuse to let you get a word in. It was monoclonal antibodies, and it was literally the same thing as a vaccine. The same exact fucking thing. It was literally, they were taking antibodies from one patient, shoving it in you, and they were like, here you go. It was monoclonal antibodies, a vitamin drip, and fucking ivermectin. And the only thing they fucking focused on was ivermectin because it was convenient for them to use it as a fucking cudgel. And that's a fucking case for them in order to be proven. I personally think that Florida is the natural path of where this argument's going. And I don't think that... I think the only way off the tracks is if we kind of follow Europe's methodology.
The problem is that because... the way that laws are split between the government and the state, unless something hits the Supreme Government, or not the Supreme Government, the Supreme Court, and becomes and sets a precedent, the thing is, it's just gonna be the way the abortion thing is right now, where the blue states say abortion's fine and the red states abortion's bad. That's the way it's just gonna go. Florida is just the leading tip of red states that are gonna start banning this, and the blue states are the ones that are gonna let it happen. So what's gonna happen is just we're all gonna split off into blue and red states, then the only difference that's gonna happen is that, everybody's going to be more insulated and only see the things that they agree with, because the states are now slowly pushing more and more and more into the radical policies.
Yeah.
And
I think the states
we're
is
not
in a
as
cold civil
homogenous
war.
anymore.
Yeah.
You're probably right. It is probably the most cold civil war that we're at right now, and it's bordering an actual one.
And if the blue states try to join Canada, I propose that we tax them 100% per second. We don't allow them to vote because fuck them. You're fucking colonizers and bitches and all that stuff. Unless you're black, in which case, and if First Nation, if you're black and First Nation, you can vote. But if you're white and especially if you're a woman, we can't allow you to vote.
I don't think one of the things is I don't think America can split. There's not enough self-sufficiency between the two areas that would allow that. Because
I think that you better hope to God that Donald Trump doesn't get elected.
Yeah, because if red states leave, we lose like 80% of our farmland.
I don't think it's going to be red states.
Oh, you think blue states are the ones that are going to instigate?
I think that this is what I think was actually going to happen. This is my big fear. Is I think that it's more likely that Donald Trump wins a second term.
If he even gets to run. The whole point of this indictment is if he gets officially impeached and gains
you're either looking
felonies, he can't run.
I think you're either looking at Ron DeSantis, but if Donald Trump is not the nominee, I think you're looking at probably one of the biggest fucking wars from Republicans, and you're probably going to be seeing it not from like the Republican Party, but from the Republican base. And I think that that's the thing that's probably going to be the kickoff.
Yeah, it's going to be Ron DeSantis and something else, and somebody else.
Because I think that like if I'm Ron DeSantis, like you're the guy who sat there and said we can't do anything, and like. That might be correct. You might be correct. You can't do anything and stuff like that. But like, if I'm a Republican voter, and I support Trump, and he gets indicted on this shit, you're not looking at like, I'm pissed, because what you're looking at is you're looking at somebody who, and I don't want to be, I'm going to say my personal opinion on this, and fuck. Whoever, if you get offended by what I'm saying, whatever. If I'm a Republican and Donald Trump gets indicted on this, those charges are bullshit. It doesn't matter what the facts say. Those charges are bullshit. They're very political charges.
I agree with you. And okay.
If you're a leftist,
he may have made a mistake, but the problem is that we've had other presidents make similar mistakes and have not gone this far. Cool. Like Hillary with the emails. I mean, even like Bill Clinton with his whole fucking cheating scandal. But that is like nearly as bad as what Trump has done.
But let's ignore this. Okay, let's ignore that. Okay, let's say that stuff is true. I think Georgia's a lot better case, because Georgia, you kind of have him going like, find me 2,000 votes to win the state. And it's like, yeah, man, that's kind of not a good look.
I mean, the thing is that when you say that, you could mean
anything.
Let's rally more people that haven't voted yet. It's like, oh, if you haven't voted yet, we only need 2,000 more votes. But like that could have been like what he was intending to mean with his words, not literally fabricate me 2,000 votes. I don't think anybody in their right mind would publicly come out.
Well,
and
a Democrat does.
Cheating.
A Democrat does, because he's literally Hitler to them. But
yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think that literally he would come out and say like, oh, let's cheat.
Yeah.
In a public forum. Like, come on. Nobody's that stupid. And Donald
Man,
Trump
we
is
need a
smarter
left.
than you give the credit for.
Oh yeah, but here's the thing: is like my personal opinion is like this: is like, let's say he does get indicted. Okay, you just started a war with every single citizen of like Texas. Every single gun tote. You started a war with every single gun-toting military vet. You started a war with every single one of them. And I'm sorry, I put a lot more likelihood of the military vets overthrowing you than anything else. And this is a clear abuse of power done again by a political faction that hates everyone. And I don't want to continue talking about this stuff, but like I think that like if let's say Donald Trump beats the indictments. Let's say Donald Trump wins. Let's say the guy gets fucking impeached, which is probably more likely at this point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The Democrats are literally willing. The Democrats don't care about you. Okay.
No, they don't.
And
the Republicans don't care about you either.
Yeah, and the Republicans are just as fucking bad. The Conservative Party, it's like the Conservative Party here. The Conservative Party here in Canada is a limp dick motherfucker. They don't really give a shit. They just constantly, okay, Pulvery, I like him. He's a good guy. I think he's funny. He's not like Jagmeet, where he's not like, oh, I'm just going to vote Liberal policies in because they're going to give me free dental care. Huh? Trump is a lot more like Pulvery. But I think that if Donald Trump even gets a hint of winning, there is going to be more fucking fighting than anything else in the world. There is going to be literally, you will hear governors threatening to secede from the union. And the truth of the fact is like the Democrats are more racist than Republicans. The truth of the fact is the leftists are more racist than right-wingers ever were.
Yeah, but they clad their racism in white people are bad.
I was thinking about this rather recently, and like the truth of the fact is like I don't know what happened to my side, and it's kind of depressing. But like at the end of the day, it's kind of getting to the point where it's hard in order to support these, be a culture warrior per se.
I think it's the loudest people have gotten so loud, and there's a lot of other things that have like fed into it.
I think
especially the media. The media's kind of like lashed on it real good because they can see positions to control.
Well, they're in it for the money
and control.
Yeah.
A stupid fighting populace is easier to control than a smart, nuanced populace.
How do you control people? Well, how do you control the battlefield? Well, you divide and conquer.
Yeah, so
and it's easier to divide. Yeah, and it's a lot easier to divide and conquer if you have two groups literally fighting each other because one group's going to fucking wipe the other out. And if you have one group that's literally fighting on your behalf, oh well, you just have a bunch of free soldiers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something where I think that at the end of the day, I mean this in the nicest way possible. At the end of the day, I think that like the best solution for the states right now is, I think that Twitter getting bought by Elon Musk was a good thing.
You know, I hate to admit it, but nobody's going to make it this far.
No. No, nobody is. I think what's happening in the world right now is very dangerous, and I don't think that there's a solution to it. I think that the reason why you have so much gun control right now is because everyone feels hopeless, and there's not a lot of hope in the world right now. You have more war. We're on the brink of World War III. You have a government that hates you, actively hates you, literally. Yeah. Could fucking not give a shit. It took 4 days for them in order to come out for a literal fucking Chernobyl incident.
And the only reason they even did come out was because
the other guy did.
Showed up. Yep.
You have a government right now. You have governments in Canada and the United States that are literally doing more authoritarian bullshit than anything else in the world.
Oh, and then you get the king coronation in England that was so lavish and expensive that it just shows the actual like wealth gap that you have between the rich and the poor, and like there's people literally starving in their streets, being stabbed by their, massive crime rate of gang violence with knives. And what do? Oh, let's throw a giant party to flex all the royal jewels.
Yeah. Well, that one I think is a little bit more simple put because the monarchy is pretty important in a lot of ways.
If you want to parallel, look at the Met Gala.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of rich fuckers that go out and look at fashion. Yeah. And then they flex all their rich bullshit. And then the fucking dumb bitch named Doja Cat gets to meow at a fucking reporter and gets 1 billion views on TikTok and Instagram. And they're like, oh, she's so amazing. Look at her in her fucking amazing gem-encrusted dress.
Ben is more jaded than me.
Oh, I'm so fucking pissed at this goddamn world, dude. I am literally... Dude, I'm probably like... I'm one bad day away from being an anarcho...
You're one bad day from becoming the Unabomber?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, dear.
Not actually, but you know what I mean.
Oh, jeez. He's going to become Joker.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft. That's the name.
Man,
I would shoot up a Walmart in Minecraft.
I would never actually do any of those things because, like, I know that that's just it's pointless. It's like you don't get there's no point in like getting your 5 minutes of fame from being a mass murderer or anything. The only thing that you get out of it is like they ridicule your ideologies. But just what it comes down to is just that I'm so close to just like saying fuck it and just like anarchy might actually be the fucking choice right now because everything else is so fucking shit.
See, you're kind of right. And it's sad for me to admit. I don't know, man. I think that the solution is a lot more nuance and stuff like that. I think part of the problem is basically
nuance is dead.
Yeah. I think that what you need I think the best solution right now is the left wants to be in an echo chamber. Cool, fine, let them. You want to be in an echo chamber? Cool. You can go into the corner and you can say whatever the fuck you want.
But the problem is that they force it on everybody else. Like, you also must believe everything that I believe and say is truth.
Yeah, but like here's the solution to that. Oh, you're a leftist? Oh, you think that this is important? Cool. Go into the corner. You're banned from the website. Bye.
That's the problem. Twitter thrives off of.
Yes. I'm saying this as I'm saying I agree with you on that. But here's the solution: is like if they want to sit there, they did that to conservatives for years, Ben. And like here's the solution is quite simply like if they want to continue to do that and they want to be in their own echo chamber, fine, cool, let them. They can be in their own little echo chamber. They can be all of these nice things and stuff like that. And you know what? Maybe they just need to be ostracized from society. Maybe instead of sitting there and trying to have these conversations and maybe instead of trying to have the conversations and maybe instead of us trying to talk this stuff out, and because I can tell conservatives are getting pissed off about this. Look at Bud Light. Look at what the fuck happened with Bud Light, for example. People are not in the mood anymore. And I think that like it's gotten to the point now where it's very obvious that the solution is a lot more of just, hey, like, you want to be that person? Cool, get the fuck off the platform. Don't fucking let the door hit your ass on the way out. And bye. Your opinion means nothing.
It sucks because the thing is Twitter makes money off these people. So they have a want to, like, have them. The previous Twitter. I think Elon Twitter is quickly changing to be more of a free speech platform, and Twitter is getting, and the Twitter normies are getting upset about that the right wingers are coming back now and expressing their opinions. And it's because Twitter was banning them in the other direction. The problem is you're suggesting now the reverse of what Twitter was doing, and you're saying, oh, let's ban the leftists because they have extremist views. No. And in actuality, you shouldn't ban anybody. Just let them say their fucking crazy shit. The thing is that the problem is that companies and people are bending over backwards to appease the people that want to say, if you don't follow our dogma, you are scum and don't deserve to have a life. Because some guy comes out and says, hey, I don't really agree with the things you're saying. And he may have in the past, when he was, 14, said the N-word on Twitter, and now they dig that up and they send it to their boss, and their boss is like, well, he said the N-word, gotta fire him now. Or, somebody might get a little rowdy in the comments saying like, oh, you're a fucking dumb bitch or something to a woman. It's like, well, now he gets fired from his job because he insulted a woman on the internet.
But that's already happening. That's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's happening. That's the problem.
But that's already happening on the right wing. It's the pendulum has gone up to that point where the leftists got the pendulum exactly to the point where it literally flipped over, and now it's happening to them.
Yeah, so now they're, somebody puts their pronouns on a resume and they don't get hired at a job because they think they're going to be pieces of shit. So the thing is that you need people that are willing to stand up for what they believe, for like not bending to a public opinion. Public opinion shouldn't determine things outside of public opinion. I may hate, like, let me put this way. I'm a black American. There may be a guy that hates my guts in fucking, West Virginia in the fucking Mounties, and he works at some local gas station, and he might say some horror shit on the internet, but I still believe that guy deserves to live and doesn't need to be fired from his job. Yes, he's a piece of shit. I won't interact with him, but that doesn't mean that I then get to say that because he's a racist piece of shit, he doesn't deserve to live.
So okay. I understand what you're saying and stuff like that, and maybe I'm wrong, but like I think that the solution is a lot more of like, maybe the solution is maybe we should just call them out.
Yeah, and that's all you. Like, honestly,
maybe the solution is maybe the solution is instead of saying they're saying like getting all like defensive and going, no, I'm not a racist. Going, no, your belief is literally the fucking problem. You are literally the racist in the room, and like. The solution might not be like the solution is, and what I mean by obfuscating these people from conversation and stuff like that, I don't mean sitting there and actually fucking banning them. I mean sitting there and saying in a conversation like Kotaku, bring it back to that, is saying like, no, you're fucking posting that, dude. That's fucking incredibly racist. Like holy shit. Or maybe sitting there and saying, wow, you're for showing kids dicks and cocks and all of this stuff in a non-sexual education manner. That's kind of a little bit pedophilic of you, bud. Just stuff like that. Like it's the simple things that you can always sit there and say. And maybe instead, and because at the end of the day, these people are not fucking doing this in good faith. They're not calling you those words because they mean it in good faith. They're the most morally corrupt people on the planet Earth, man. And like, I think
some of them are doing it in bad faith, and some of them are doing it.
Well, some of them are mentally fucking retarded and
or mentally ill in general.
Yeah, and they need a fucking wake up call, and part of that means that they probably need, and this is just me being blunt, they need psychological intervention, and they need a therapist who actually gives a shit about them. But those are dime a dozen.
I just think that. I don't know, man. There's a lot of problems. And like the thing is, like, yeah, you can call them out, but like in the end, calling them out either means that like you want them to have repercussions for it, which is like the problem of them getting fired from their jobs or whatever.
I don't want them getting repercussions. I want them. When I say call them out, I don't want them to go through. Yes, I want them to suffer repercussions.
Yeah, but the thing is then the repercussions can only be social. They can't be life impacting. Yeah. Like if like you call it the racist and then you lose all of his friends, fine, right? And then all he has left is his racist friends.
I like Josh's post. Yeah, perfect, Josh. Yeah.
But if you
Yeah,
call him the
sure.
racist and then he loses his job, that's bad because then it also happens at the other end.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I think that this is. I think that what we need is I think that we need to call them out and say, "Hey, that's pretty racist of you, man." And then we need to maybe call them out and stuff like that. I don't think that they need to lose their jobs. I don't think that, because let's be honest, they don't really have a job. But I think they need to be called out and said, hey, that's pretty racist. Hey, you're pretty much in the wrong here. Hey, you're a fucking dipshit. Hey, you need to stop and take a step back and breathe. And maybe the solution is something simple as saying, like, hey, you're being pretty racist. Your beliefs are pretty racist. I'm sorry, man. I don't want to associate with you right now. And, like, maybe you need to take a step out and go touch some grass.
It'd be nice if that worked, but that's not the world we
And
live
like
in.
the truth is like you don't have to associate with those people.
Yeah, but the thing is that
If they want to live in an echo chamber, they can.
yeah, and like that's kind of the way that we are already
Yeah.
in some situations.
And like
But the thing is that doesn't really help society because all that does is divide us more.
yeah. But like but the thing is like you can always extend olive branches out. And the worst thing that they can do, you can always say, "Hey man, hey man, Merry Christmas." You can always do that every once in a while. "Hey man, happy birthday." "Hey, how's it going?" You can always ask those questions. You don't necessarily need a response. And like if they'll reach out and talk to you when they're ready. And like you don't have to if they don't want to associate with you, hey, it's a free country. They don't have to associate with you either. I have a couple of people I have blocked on a couple of social media websites because I quite frankly don't want anything to do with them. And I'm pretty sure they have me blocked too. That's fine. Like it's not a big deal. And a lot of my issues with those people are political. It's okay. I don't want to associate with them. They don't want to associate with me. I think that they're pieces of I think that they're fucking COVID nuts. That's fine. I've been called worse. And the truth is of the fact is like that's my choice. And I don't really think that that's a problem. I think that, like, yeah, it does play into dividing the country a little bit more. And at the end of the day, we need to build bridges. But at the same time, it's like, hey, like, I have people who I don't have blocked who could reach out and message me right now. And I'd say, hey, man, let's talk about this stuff and let's get through this together.
We've gotten pretty crazy off the rails.
I mean, yeah. Whose fault is that?
True. Yeah. I mean, we're at 2 hours and 20 now, so.
Yeah, I think that we should end the show.